Our guy DK of SpartanHoops.com joins the show to talk about what he saw the first two games with the Spartans and then the Kentucky matchup in the Champions Classic. But first, hey, we've got to talk about MSU football, and we got another commit for the 2023 class as well. Let's go.
Are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Spartan friends, Spartan family, the greatest people in the world. Yes, I'm talking about you, the viewers and listeners of Watched on Spartans. That's nice. How about Locked on Spartans, the actual name of this show? I'm your host, Matt Sheehan, and after we get off the stumbling blocks here, we're going to get right into the show. We got some MSU hoops talk in segments 2 and 3, but first, hey, come on now. Still in the midst of football season, but before any of that, today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. It's BetOnline where the game starts. And we start this week with a big commit for the 2023 class. But before we get to him, that's right, I'm really teasing this thing right here. It was Mondays with Mel, the press conference we all know and love that happens on a weekly basis. And nothing too crazy came out of it today. I'm going to be honest with you. The only notables are that no updates on the suspended players for what happened 2 weeks ago in Ann Arbor. So we're still kind of playing the waiting game for that. And there is one quote that I thought was interesting. We missed this when recapping the Rutgers game, but definitely worth bringing up now, as I think it'll be important for this Saturday's game as well. This is Chris Solari who tweeted this out. He was at the press conference today, and this was about the defensive matchup Michigan State gave Rutgers. Quote, "When you get into the dime package, you get more speed on the field and have the ability to match up better. The Spartans use Xavier Henderson and Malik Spencer at the linebacker spots when going to that dime package, with Brantley, Mangum, Brooks, and Ronald Williams playing the perimeter." So with Indiana, who does like to throw the ball with their new quarterback they just threw into the game last week against Ohio State in Dexter Williams, a guy that's very active with his legs, I would not be shocked to see more dime package at all this week, and especially, too, if these suspensions are still looming over Michigan State and you can't plug in a guy like Jacoby Windman back into the linebacker spot. I mean, hey, but you still like what we do see with our actual linebackers, as, just like we all expected, Cal Halladay being named Big Ten Defensive Player of the Week for the second time this season. And obviously the second time in a row as well. He racked up 19 tackles was the official count in Saturday's game. And that is the most by a Spartan in a single game since 2004. What on earth were you doing in 2004? I was watching the Pistons ramp up to their, NBA championship season as a 6th or 7th grader, but that's how long it's been since a Spartan has gotten 19 tackles. So Cal Halladay, look at you go. That's the 5th time a Spartan has won Big Ten Defensive Player of the Week. Jacoby Windman has the other 3. So it's 2 Spartans have done it, but they've done it 5 times this season, which is quite remarkable. And speaking of remarkable, how about Mel Tucker getting a big recruit out of the Sunshine State down in Florida? And funny enough, it is a 4-star linebacker from Florida. And it's not even Mel Tucker's first 4-star linebacker from Florida. Obviously, Jordan Hall committed not too long ago, about a month or 2 ago. I'm losing track of the time, but Jayvant Brown is also going to be joining Jordan Hall out of the Sunshine State. He is a 6-foot, 220-pound linebacker, the number 367 rated kid in the country. And that is Michigan State's 9th commit that ranks inside of the top 400 players per 24/7 Sports. That's where we get all of our recruiting rankings. And 24/7 Sports also has Jayvant Brown as the number 29 rated linebacker in his class. And to throw a cherry on top of all that, he's going to be playing in the All-American Bowl as well. That is, I believe, the 2nd week of January. Michigan State commit by Job also playing in that game as well. Jalen Thompson also playing in an All-American game. So, hey, look at Michigan State go. And let me tell you, look at Mel Tucker go, because This is a kid that just visited last weekend to catch some Spartans versus Scarlet Knights. And if you can get a commit from a guy that has offers from Bama, Florida, Miami, Penn State, Texas, Michigan, Ohio State, and has also visited Florida and Alabama, and if you can make that commit, a kid from Florida, in the same weekend he travels out to Michigan when it's 35 degrees outside, and you get his verbal commitment the next day, I'll tell you what, that's a sign of a really, really strong recruiter, which is what we have in Mel Tucker. So you talk about all weekends for a kid from Florida to come up to enjoy some nice Michigan weather. Okay, will turn into a commit. So look at that. Absolutely sensational. He will project to play weak side linebacker, is the assumption. This is a really speedy kid, also runs track and field. But this is a kid that also has a lot of football competition around him as he transferred to St. Thomas Aquinas down in Florida for his senior season. And if you don't know, St. Thomas Aquinas down in Florida, in the Fort Lauderdale area, as good as they come in the Sunshine State. They are a bona fide powerhouse, and they are littered with good talent. And some of that talent on St. Thomas Aquinas is also a kid Michigan State is still after, even though he's committed to Penn State. 4-star safety King Mack. That's, you talk about first ballot all-name team. King Mack is teammates with Brown. Michigan State is still pursuing King Mack despite, his verbal commitment to Penn State, because that's just how recruiting works these days. If you're anywhere in the top 500, maybe even top 1,000, really, you're going to be hearing from all sorts of schools until National Signing Day starts in a month. We are in that final month of the season. So yes, the coaching staff doesn't just have themselves going after King Mack. They'll also have Jayvant Brown as well. So we'll see what kind of strings he can pull there. But regardless, big time commit for Michigan State. Just another 4-star. Look at the Spartans going right now. Michigan State's class for 2023 is ranked 31st nationally per 24/7 Sports. But I will add this in here as well, because rankings are predicated on how many kids you have in your class, what's their ranking, some algorithm that spits out this ranking. So right now, MSU 31st nationally. I presume they will add 7 kids, give or take 2 or 3, either way. But this is the fun stat, is that the average recruiting ranking for Michigan State is 15th in the country as well. In the Big Ten Conference, Michigan State sits 6th in the conference. But let's use that fun stat we just did. Let's take the average recruiting ranking. And right now, Michigan State would be 3rd best in the Big Ten. Now, unfortunately, that's behind 2 other Big Ten East teams in Ohio State, who's obviously number 1. Because as sure as the sun rising in the East every morning, Ohio State's going to have an incredible recruiting class. And then Penn State sits at number 2 for average recruit ranking as well. So, yes, outside of the top 30, just rated 6th in the Big Ten. But I think when the dust settles, Michigan State will scoot beneath that top 25 line. And I think we'll end with a 4th ranked class in the Big Ten, perhaps. I don't know. Again, a lot of dust to settle. A lot of kids are looking to get flipped from Michigan State from other coaching staff. But hey, just like we talked about with King Mack, come on, Michigan State's also trying to do the same as well. There's so much to happen, but yet, hey, we're starting to get to so little time territory as, signing day is in December here. So there you have it. Some fun news that broke late on Sunday. And we're going to get into some basketball talk here in a second with Dave Klein of Spartan Hoops. We talk what he saw in the first 2 games for Michigan State. He's got a pretty positive outlook on the season. And then also we mix it up with the MSU versus Kentucky matchup happening in a matter of hours seemingly as well. But first, need to talk your ear off about SimpliSafe. That's right. They are the best in the business. And that's not just me saying that. No. They have earned the number 1 rated security system for the 3rd straight year. Did you know that over the holidays, property crimes like burglaries and package theft spike nationally? That's why our friends at SimpliSafe Home Security are offering 50% off their award-winning system so that more families can feel safe and secure this holiday season. Order your SimpliSafe system for half off today and enjoy advanced security and greater peace of mind this holiday season. Look, We are talking about the Fast Protect technology that captures critical evidence, verifies the threat is real so that you can get priority police response. They take care of you top to bottom with a service that costs less than $1 a day. That is less than half the price of ADT's traditional professionally installed system. So do not miss your chance to save big on the only security system that I recommend. Get 50% off of any new SimpliSafe system at simplisafe.com/lockedoncollege. This is their biggest discount of the year. So what are you waiting for? Jump on simplisafe.com/lockedoncollege. There is no safe like SimpliSafe. And there is also no way to spice up your sports season, no matter what it is. Hey, it could be college basketball, college football, or if you're an NFL person as well, golf season, maybe even esports. BetOnline has you taken care of because BetOnline, as you know, we've been talking about BetOnline for ages now. They are your number one source for your sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from football to basketball to soccer. That's right. World Cup fever is going to be popping at BetOnline. And just like I said, hey, esports, they have everything at BetOnline. And if you love sports podcasts, which, boy, I hope you do, you're listening to this one right here, you can find more of those at BetOnline as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. Head to the website today. Use your mobile device to learn more. That is at BetOnline, where the game starts. Now let's get to our guy, Dave Klein of SpartanHoops.com. Already know who this is. It's Dave Klein. Look, he's probably the reason you're tuning in, because whenever Dave Klein of SpartanHoops.com jumps on the microphone, greatness ensues. DK, hey, how we doing, man? Two games down for our Spartan Hoops team. How we feeling so far?
Pretty good, like low expectations coming into the game, and then, up 7.5, you're thinking to yourself, holy shit,
Right.
Are they going to win?
Right.
Are they going to pull off this dub? Go up 12? I'm like, oh my God. I think I tweeted out, take their lunch money. I thought it was going to be a ransack the rest of the game.
Right.
Then we know what happened with the Kohler-Hauser front court, and it went all downhill from there. So, but I think a lot of optimism should be taken. Did a little post-game Twitter Spaces, and I just try to keep the positivity, because ultimately I think you got to be happy by a lot of the things that you saw. And, you got another tough matchup coming up, and maybe you don't find a dub there either. But this is a circumstance where just the life and the general, how I was viewing this team coming in, I think definitely changed after that game against Gonzaga, and I think for the better. So we'll get into it, I'm sure.
I was going to say, I liked that, because after the game, look, I was like, I understand why people are, happy with what happened in the game, minus the outcome. No one wants to see a loss, but they had a lot of good flashes. But I was kind of like a negative Nancy, like, they had a 12-point lead, yada, yada, yada. So good to have you on here. What was like the biggest surprise that you saw from this team that really kind of took you back? Because I have something in the back of my head, but I want to hear from you first.
It has to be Maddie. I mean, it's got to be the Maddie Sissoko performance. He has the breakout performance. I think early on, I watched a lot of his highlights. I didn't watch a lot of full games for him, so I thought he was going to be a little bit more polished coming in, because every highlight that I saw, he's just cramming on somebody, grabbing boards, blocking shots, and cramming. And I'm like, top 40 guy. This guy's going to be, kind of ready to make an impact, if not year one, then year two. He really is like stuck in, a center spot rotation that's just choked with bodies the last couple of years, none of which had any real high level talent. So the thought that he couldn't carve into some more minutes, I think, was really concerning. I was very, very vocal that they needed to add a transfer center. I still think that they probably should have found one, because the backup spot, as we will talk about, is a little bit sketchy right now, particularly for the slate that we have ahead. But Maddie Sissoko looked really, really, really good. And I don't know if we get that level of production, but if we get that level of competency on both sides of the glass, and I just think like his general hands and his feet, like the first 2 years, he didn't look like a guy that could walk and chew bubblegum. And I say that from a perspective where I was a center. I was like, it took me a long time to grow into my body and figure that all out. It really didn't happen until like the latter part of junior year into my senior year. So I get it. It takes longer for big men sometimes, but I didn't even know that the ceiling that we're going to get from him was going to be to that extent. I really thought he dominated the game and really helped control some of the offense for Michigan State. The gravity that he started drawing in the middle of the game, in the middle of the paint, was incredible. The Pierre Brooks wing three to push us up 5. I think there was maybe like 8, is under 8. And he hit that wing three. That's because he came up and set a high pick and roll, and the guy who was on Brooks had to sag down on Maddie because he's commanding that type of presence. And I think it's going to open up the shooting. Obviously, on the boat, both teams shot terribly, and that was to be expected. But I think this team is going to be able to lean on the 3-point shooting this year. So I think, just seeing his performance, and then AJ Hogard is the second guy for me because he's really the guy that stirs the drink. But I just liked how aggressive he was downhill. He was in the post a lot. He only went 2 for 8 from the field. He had a couple threes that he got caught with 5 seconds left, had to shoot them. I'm completely fine with him taking that shot in rhythm, a kick around that he takes. That's fine. I would have loved to see one go down for him just because I think he needs to build his confidence there. But I love the way that he just, he didn't settle. He got into the paint all game. 8 for 10 from the free throw line, 3 for 3 from the first game. He's shooting almost 85%. This is a guy who's a career 62% free throw shooter. If he can shoot this like in the low to mid 70s, it's a huge boon because he's a guy to me that can get there 5-6 times a game easy as long as he brings that mindset. And between the two of them, when you have a stable 1 and 5 position, a lot of good can happen. And the guys that are around him are then playing more of a supplementary role where you're looking them to score off open actions that you're going to get from just the pick and roll in the middle. So I am really, really happy. I thought that they had more of an identity than I've seen in the past 2 years. They really imposed their will on the glass that first half. And then we kind of saw that slip a little bit when we got into some foul trouble. But I think all around, I was really, really encouraged by the 1 and the 5 spot. And to me, that raises the floor for Michigan State, which I wasn't so certain was that safe. But Maddie makes that a lot safer, even if he doesn't quite play to this level. Give me 70, 80% of that. And I think that he's going to be a good enough center to be able to compete in the Big Ten.
So what are you feeling here for the rest of this gauntlet? Because we hear the question all the time. I'm sure you hear the question all the time. Like, it's obviously Gonzaga, the Kentucky, Villanova, the PK85, Notre Dame, if you want to throw them in. Like, what's the ideal? It can either be a record, I guess, or just something that you see where you get out of this 2-3 week stretch and you're like, that actually went pretty good. I mean, so what is it for you? Is it a number? Or
I would have loved for them to split one of the two between Gonzaga and Kentucky. I think that's the biggest, like, you just had that where I think we talked about it, but that's a seed line mover. That's a feather in the cap that when it comes time to Selection Sunday, you're getting moved up a line because you beat Gonzaga. And the thing is, I honestly think that Kentucky is an all-around better and deeper team than Gonzaga, and maybe by a reasonable margin. So I'm kind of the opinion that Gonzaga maybe is a little bit overrated coming into the season. You heard about the Tennessee kind of blowout game, and then Tennessee loses to Colorado, who lost to Grambling. There's so much anarchy going in college basketball. We're not even into the full first week, really. So I think that this season is going to be really up and down. I think that Kentucky, for me, is maybe on the same par as a Baylor and a Houston. They're really the 3 teams that I've circled that I think are the true national contenders. Just from an eye test, it's obviously so early. But if I'm looking at the depth of talent and just the quality that they have, I think Kentucky, pound for pound, is one of the best teams in the country. Usually at this point in the season, he's relying on so many freshmen. And so there's always a bit of a learning curve. They're athletic. They're always talented. He recruits either number 1 or 2 almost every year. I like the freshman a lot. Cason Wallace, who's a point guard / scoring guard for them when Wheeler's been out. Stud, two-way guy. I think he's, long-term, at least in college, I think he's going to be better because he plays on both sides of the ball than what we saw from Ty Washington last year. They're long. They're athletic. Jacob Toppin's back for another year. He looks like he's ready to kind of have a big boost. They just have a lot of older players. CJ Frederick from Iowa, after having 2 years, being banged up, he looks like he's back and healthy, and he's shooting the snot out of the ball. They grabbed a guy, Antonio Reeves, same thing. They have now 2 high-volume shooters who are shooting at high percentages. The thing with Kentucky is when he constructs his roster, usually he leans more towards going athletic, rebounding well, playing defense well, but the skill isn't always as high as probably you'd like it. And I think that's probably been one of the gripes from the fan base. That's not the case this year. They have two guys who are knockdown shooters. They've played them at spots on the court at the same time. And Michigan State has to protect both the paint and the perimeter from this team. They're going to cause some problems. They're long, they're athletic, they're everything that you think of in a Kentucky team, and now they can shoot. I think this is one of the best squads he's put together in the last 5 years. I really do. So I don't think there's going to be a shame if we end up taking an L. But God damn, I want it. I want this one really bad. So
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
So I didn't answer your question per se. What do I want to see from them? I want to see them again be extremely competitive in this game. If you go toe to toe, I don't know if Gonzaga's a top 5 team, but I think they're a top 10 team. So if you go toe to toe again with the top 5 team, with the top 10 team in back-to-back games, to me, you're never going to have a tougher schedule than what you did when playing out in San Diego on an aircraft carrier and then playing in Indy against Kentucky in back-to-back games anywhere on the Big Ten schedule. So if you can get through this and be competitive and maybe find a way to get out a win, I think that even with some of the stretch that they have in the Big Ten season, they can string some wins together. So I'm really just keeping an eye on the continued growth from some of the younger guys. Is Jaden Akins going to get 100% healthy? Once he does, is he going to raise the ceiling? Can Maddie continue to keep it up? Is AJ going to settle in? I think that Pierre Brooks has obviously flashed some nice stuff. Is he need to grow? There's some nice storylines to watch. They've got to find a way to get some wins. Villanova ended up losing to Temple. They're down 2 of their guys. Cam Whitmore, who's a lottery pick, I think he fractured his thumb or something. So I don't know if he's going to be back in time. I'm really kind of hoping that he's not because we need that dub. I'm going to the game, so hopefully bringing some luck there.
Hey now.
And then the PK 85, it's tough. You beat Alabama, and then you have a chance to play, I think, UConn and God, I can't
Oregon.
UConn and Oregon. And then I think UNC's on that side of the bracket, and Nova is too. If somehow they were to get some guys back,
Iowa State,
maybe make a run. Mm-hmm. So it's a gauntlet. They're going to have to find some wins. You gotta get the wins that you're expected to. And to me, if you're just looking at the next few games, the win at home against Villanova has to be circled. The scheduling just doesn't allow for much room for breathing. And so you need to see, is this team capable not only physically but mentally being able to hang in there when you're going to have some L's on the schedule. You can't let that really deter you because next opponent is another chance for a Q1 win, a quality win that you can look again towards March. And so you got to have a short memory during this stretch, got to continue to improve. But I'm generally optimistic more so after the Gonzaga game than I was before. I think there's still some question marks, obviously, but I think that you have to be encouraged by what you saw.
So as far as things I want to see on Tuesday is Jaden Akins, have a solid game. And look, the first game that he had in Northern Arizona, okay, that's his first game action coming off the surgery. Look, the aircraft carrier game, I didn't have a good shooting day, but who are you going to beat up for having a bad shooting day on the carrier? Yeah. Everyone had a bad shooting day on both sides. But now are we starting to get to the point 3 games in where it's okay, now we're going to want to start seeing stuff, AKA I kind of have to stop making excuses for him after this game, right? Is that kind of where you're at?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm there yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not there yet because
You're healthy.
Had surgery September 10th. So he basically didn't play for the better part of 6-7 weeks. Then he started practicing, but he wasn't allowed to go full in drills. The first weekend that he was able to go live was before that NASU game on Monday. So he's had he hasn't even had a week of practice yet. So it's tough for me to just be all right, guys, it's time, That's man. Fair. Come on, just, I think that's probably going to take him the better part of this month to really get back up to speed. I'd like to see some incremental progress as we go, both scoring wise and just the way that he's looked in his comfort level. He's played good defense. He had a couple steals, a couple breakaways that game. He hit a 3. I think that he has taken a lot of shots, and I like that he's had the green light. So that's encouraging. He's looked comfortable doing it, even though they haven't quite gone in yet for him. I think that his explosion has still looked there. He's looked maybe just a little bit hesitant sometimes. And I think that's just going to come with it. You have a foot surgery that's just so much pressure that you're putting on that part of your body, particularly in basketball. To 100% trust it, I think is mentally going to take him a few weeks to be able to do it. But again, Michigan State can't really afford to have too many L's here if they want to avoid an uncomfortable, selection Sunday. So it's one of these things where I'm definitely giving him a grace period, but I'm hoping that it's sooner than later because when he's back and he's healthy, I think he exponentially raises the ceiling for Michigan State. And I just think they're a better team when he's on the floor. I really do.
No doubt about that. And you know what? Just jumping back to the Kentucky game, I totally, don't want to miss this name at all. But Oscar Tshiebwe for Kentucky has not played in their first 2 games. He also had a procedure done in the offseason. And Coach Cal, I believe it was after their game against Duquesne, said he doesn't know if Tshiebwe will be playing on Tuesday. How much does that change your expectation of the game then? Is it a situation where if he doesn't play, then okay, you're borderline expecting MSU to win, or is Kentucky just so good everywhere else?
Yeah, I think that they have the depth to do it. So he's right now Ware has been starting, who's like 6'9", 230. He's more of like a power forward, but I don't think he stretches it really. So, but he's athletic. He's not a guy that you're going to have to worry about like beating you up in the post. They have a 5-star freshman who's a 7-footer. And he's built like a 5-star. So he's coming in. I think he struggled the first game. I think he had 9 and 10 against Duquesne. Obviously, they didn't really have like a traditional center either. But so they have some depth in the front court still. This isn't like, obviously you're missing the National Player of the Year. So you're hoping that there's some advantage that's being gained. I think there clearly is. But if he doesn't go, I don't know if it changes it to like a you have to win type of game for me, because I just think that really the strength of this team this year is their depth. I think they're going to defend really, really well. And so they're going to be able to lean onto some things where maybe they can't score as well inside as they could when he's there. And they're not going to clean up the glass quite to the level. So I think Maddie has maybe a little bit of an advantage there. But it's not going to really change my outlook because I think they're that good this year. So,
gotcha. Dang it. Well, that's
sorry.
That's a bummer to hear. But you know what? You shoot us straight. You're never one to fluff anything up. And like Kentucky again, it's just like we're talking about Gonzaga. Like they're a top 5 team in the nation for a reason. This isn't a mistake. Yeah. So with that said, though, before the Gonzaga game, look, we talked with Andy Patton of Locked On Zags, and he said if there's any hole to exploit, it's that. It's not really a post presence for Gonzaga defensively. So maybe, I don't know, you have a big man that goes off.
Yeah.
Well, you did with Mady Sissoko. Do you see any holes here for Kentucky? Because traditionally with a Kentucky team, it is the fact that, shooting doesn't necessarily go great for them a lot of the time. But obviously they've shored those
this
issues
year
up. So I think
both games they've shot above 50%. So it's not
terrible. I know. I know.
Yeah, and they have 2 guards that are going to get up in your shit. Both Cason Wallace and Severe Wheeler. Yeah. He really is. It's almost going to be like that Spider-Man meme where AJ and him are pointing at each other because neither guy is really a shooter. They're big, kind of downhill guards, pass first type point guards. So that matchup is one I'm circling because I'm really curious to see how they look against each other. I don't know who Joey Hauser's guard in this game. I'm just going to be honest with you. They've been starting a freshman. I think he's a 5-star too. I'm sure he is. Chris Livingston. He wasn't to me pegged as a shooter. He's knocked down a couple shots, but he's athletic. I think he's going to cause maybe Joey some fits. So Michigan State's going to have to really – I think the thing that I learned maybe the most is I think that the best version of Michigan State when it comes down to crunch time and just line up on the floor may not have Joey Hauser on it. And this is obviously first game. He scores 18 and 10. When he plays somebody that's, a similar athletic quality to him, like we've seen him pop off against Wisconsin. We saw what he did in the tournament last year against Davidson. When he plays guys of similar athletic ability, he's a stud. He knows exactly what to do, where to go. He can score it. But we saw last night, or I should say on Friday night, if his jumper isn't falling, what is he giving you on either side of the ball? And I think that's where it starts getting a little hairy. We absolutely needed him. We needed him to come back this year, particularly with some of the attrition that's had. So this isn't – I don't want this to sound like complete hatred. Mm-hmm. But I think that the best lineup and the best position for Hall is when he slid to the 4. I think that eventually when Akins comes back, to me, it's got to be AJ, Tyson, Akins, Hall, Sissoko. I think that's your best 5. I think Pierre Brooks, even to a certain extent, can maybe give you a little bit more than what Hauser can to a certain degree. And I like when he comes in and plays a small forward because, again, it bumps down Hall to maybe his more natural position at the power forward. So that's something to monitor. The staff really loves Joey. I know Izzo's a big Joey guy. So
Yep.
I'm just going to kind of keep my pulse on that because I thought they went with him a little bit too long in this game, and it ended up hurting them in the long run. And then we haven't really touched on it, but Kohler looked like a freshman, and
Yep.
he's a guy that we had pretty large expectations for coming into the season. I think he's still going to be able to give you something solid, but is it going to be in this first month? Like, I think him getting up to speed is one of the bigger question marks that I have too, because right now he looks just a little bit slow, and we kind of knew that coming in. But we thought that the offensive ability was going to be able to be something he could lean on and kind of at least say, well, yeah, you're going to give up some stuff defensively, but offensively he can give you so much. We haven't quite seen it. He hasn't looked comfortable in the double. He's kind of just been playing a little bit timid and wasn't particularly confident. And so we need him to be the best version of himself, because if you don't, where are you going if Maddie gets into foul trouble? He's probably only going to play 20 minutes per game. So you got Fitz behind him that you're going to have to find a way to fill. I don't know what the answer is for that right now, whether it's to play small and you move Hauser to the 5 and at least maybe you're creating a perimeter advantage with him. You get beat up in the paint, but I think you still are with Kohler anyways. So maybe you lean towards the offensive advantage. But that's a big question mark and something that I would have liked to see them address in the portal this offseason. But here we are. Hopefully Carson Cooper can get out of the doghouse, because even if he would have been able to play 3-4 minutes, I think we would have maybe got just a little bit better defensive presence out of him. And from Izzo's post-game comments, it sounded like he, what's that like meme or the picture, whatever, F around and find out. I think he F'd around in warm-ups or whatever he was doing in the morning. He found out that Izzo really doesn't care. He'd rather go down with a ship than play a guy that pissed him off. So let's hope that changes as well.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And you know what better way to get you into the Champions Classic than with DK of SpartanHoops.com. DK, as always, cannot thank you enough for your generosity with your time, your knowledge, and just your great looks too. Hey, this is a YouTube show. The people appreciate it as well. You're the man, DK. Where can the people find you, just so they could yell at you or agree with you?
SpartanHoops_DK at Twitter and SpartanHoops.com. I'm just going to post probably tomorrow morning an article with some takeaways on film and just my general thoughts on a few of the positions. So I'll have that out in the Gonzaga game. This is going to probably be the preview for UK. I'm traveling for work the next 2 days, so that's going to be a little difficult, but I should have something out for the Nova game too. So I don't know. It's another big one, man. At the very least, it's nice to see just us on the national stage over and over again, because again, we need to look at this year as a building foundation for the gross amount of talent that's coming in next year. We got to be optimistic. So while we want to win and make a second weekend this year and compete in the Big Ten, there are reinforcements on the way. So keep your chins up out there. All right.
I love that. Love that pep talk. Let's go. And thank you, everyone, for giving us a watch or giving us a listen. We will be back tomorrow, of course. Going to recap the game, whatever happens against the Wildcats. And also Stephen Brooks will be joining us as well to talk about all things football. We got you covered here. Come on. You know where to find all your state news right here, Locked on Spartans. Go enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of your week. Love you all. Go Green.